came home early to surprise his wife. But when he opened the kitchen door and saw what she was doing to his mother, his entire world shattered in seconds. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? United States, Canada, UK, Australia, Jamaica? William Parker wasn't the kind of man who liked attention. At 55, with silver hair and the calm confidence of a man who had built his empire from nothing, he was admired across Dallas. But behind every great man, they say, there's a story no one sees. For William, that story began the day he met Linda. She was 33, breathtakingly beautiful, and as charming as she was intelligent. Everyone said he was lucky. Even his friends joked that he'd found the fountain of youth. William smiled and agreed, never realizing that behind that smile was a heart colder than steel. Linda loved luxury. Designer bags, first-class trips, charity galas. She lived for the sparkle of admiration. But what she didn't love was William's mother. Margaret Parker, 78, had survived 2 strokes. When her health began to fail, William did what any devoted son would do. He moved her into their mansion so he could care for her. To him, it was a blessing. To Linda, it was an inconvenience. The first week Margaret arrived, Linda tried to act sweet. She'd smile in front of William, bring tea to Margaret's room, and call her mom. But once William left for work, her tone changed. The sweetness vanished. Do you really need all this help? She'd snap. You're not a child. Margaret, fragile and kind, never complained. She'd simply whisper, "It's all right, dear," and turn her gaze to the window, pretending not to notice the coldness in Linda's voice. Helen, the housekeeper, saw it all. She'd worked for the Parkers for 15 years, loyal, quiet, and protective of the family. When she began to notice bruises on Margaret's hands, she grew suspicious. Margaret brushed it off, claiming she'd fallen, but Helen knew better. Something dark was growing in that house. One Friday morning, William was preparing for a business trip to Austin. He kissed his mother on the forehead, hugged Linda goodbye, and said, "Take care of her for me, sweetheart." Linda smiled sweetly and replied, "Of course, darling, you know I will." But as soon as the front door closed, her expression hardened. Margaret sat quietly in her wheelchair, knitting. A soft clatter echoed. She'd accidentally knocked over a cup of tea. Hot liquid spilled across the counter and floor. Linda's eyes flared with irritation. "Do you have any idea how much this marble costs?" she hissed, grabbing a towel and slamming it on the spill. Margaret stammered an apology, trembling. Linda rolled her eyes. "You're always making a mess. Maybe you should have stayed in the nursing home." Helen, cleaning in the hallway, froze as she overheard the cruel words. She wanted to intervene, but before she could, a piercing scream came from the kitchen. The sound of something heavy crashing to the floor followed. Helen dropped her duster and ran. Her heart pounded. As she approached the kitchen, she saw Margaret cowering in fear and Linda standing above her, clutching the handle of a steaming pot. "Linda, what are you doing?" Helen gasped, but Linda didn't answer. She simply turned her head slowly, her expression unreadable. Helen fumbled for her phone, trembling. She dialed William's number once. No answer. Twice. Still no answer. She left a voicemail, voice shaking. "Mr. Parker, please, you need to come home. It's your mother. Please hurry." In Dallas traffic, William's phone buzzed on the car seat. He saw the missed calls. Frowning, something in his chest tightened. A strange, uneasy feeling. He hesitated, then turned his car around. Back at the mansion, Helen stood by the kitchen doorway, too afraid to move closer. The air was thick with tension, and all she could hear was the faint sobbing of Margaret. Then came Linda's voice. Cold and furious. You ruined everything. Old woman. Everything. Helen's heart dropped. Just as she was about to step in, she heard the front door slam open. William was home early. If you walked in and saw someone hurting your parent, what would you do in that moment? William's heart was pounding as he pulled into the driveway. Something didn't feel right. Not Helen's tone, not the silence that greeted him when he stepped out of the car. Even from outside, the mansion felt wrong. He entered the house quietly, his shoes clicking against the polished marble floor. Linda? He called out. No answer. Mom? His voice echoed through the hallway. Still, nothing. Then he heard it. A muffled sob, faint, trembling, coming from the kitchen. He moved faster now, his pulse quickening with each step. As he neared the door, a hiss of steam and a sharp cry pierced the air. William froze. His hand hovered over the door handle, his breath shallow. Then he pushed it open. What he saw made his entire body go numb. Margaret, his mother, was slumped on the floor, clutching her arm, her nightgown drenched and skin blistered red, and standing over her was Linda, a pot of boiling water still steaming in her hand, her face twisted with anger. For a moment, time stopped. William couldn't move. He couldn't even speak. It was as if the world had gone silent except for the faint dripping of water from the pot. Linda, he whispered finally, voice trembling. Her eyes widened, not with guilt, but shock that he was standing there. William, I can explain. Explain what? He said quietly, stepping closer. Explain how you poured boiling water on my mother. Linda dropped the pot onto the tile, the clatter echoing through the kitchen. She tried to cry, to sound innocent, but her words stumbled. She was yelling at me. She attacked me first. Attacked you? William's tone shifted, calm, cold, dangerous. She can barely lift a spoon. Linda, Helen rushed in, helping Margaret to the couch, tears streaming down her face. Sir, I tried to call you, she said softly. She's been cruel for weeks, but today she went too far. Linda turned sharply. Don't you dare speak to me like that. You're just a servant. Enough. William's voice thundered, silencing everyone. The man who had built skyscrapers, who had negotiated billion-dollar deals with calm precision, now stood trembling with fury and heartbreak. He walked past Linda and knelt beside his mother. Mom, can you hear me? He whispered, holding her trembling hand. Margaret nodded weakly, tears glistening in her eyes. Don't blame her, Will, she whispered. I'm fine. But he could see the burns, the pain etched across her face. Something inside him snapped. He stood up slowly, turned to Linda, and said the words that froze her blood cold. You just destroyed your own life. For the first time, Linda's mask cracked completely. She stepped back, her voice shaking. William, please, I didn't mean to hurt her. I lost control. She kept complaining. I thought she hated me. He stared at her, unblinking. My mother never hated anyone, he said. She forgave everyone, even those who didn't deserve it. But me. He took a step closer. I don't forgive cruelty. He pulled out his phone and made 2 calls. The first to the family doctor, the second to his lawyer. "Pack your things," he said coldly, "and pray that my mother survives tonight." Linda's face went pale. "William, please, don't do this. I love you." He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Helen and said, "Call security. Don't let her leave." He carried his mother gently out of the kitchen as Linda collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. But her tears weren't for guilt. They were for fear of losing everything she thought she owned. As William placed his mother into the ambulance minutes later, he looked back at the mansion, his dream home, and realized it had become a prison built on deceit. The flashing red lights painted his face in streaks of sorrow and rage. And in that moment, William Parker made a silent vow. He wouldn't yell. He wouldn't strike back. He would do something far worse, something permanent. He would let truth destroy her. The next morning, the story would break across Dallas, and no one, not Linda, not her friends, not even the media, would be ready for what William did next. The truth is about to come out, and Linda is about to learn that karma doesn't knock twice. The next morning, the Parker estate was surrounded by flashing lights and whispers. The air was thick with tension. Neighbors craned their necks. Reporters began circling the driveway, and everyone was asking the same question: what happened to the Parkers? William stood in his office, his mother safe in a hospital bed, her hand wrapped in bandages, but her heart as forgiving as ever. Linda sat downstairs in silence, her eyes red from crying, her phone buzzing endlessly. She'd called her lawyer, her friends, even William's associates, but no one picked up. By noon, she realized she was truly alone. Upstairs, William was calm, too calm. He looked out the window, his mind clear. He had spent the night thinking, not about anger, but about justice. At exactly 12:30 p.m., he walked downstairs. Linda stood up, desperate. "William, please, listen. It was a mistake. I swear it. I was tired, frustrated. Your mother..." He raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "You poured boiling water on a 78-year-old woman." "Linda," his tone was quiet, almost whisper-like, but it cut through the room like a blade. "You didn't make a mistake. You revealed who you are." Her lips trembled. "Please, I'll change. I'll get help, therapy, whatever you want." William tilted his head slightly. "Therapy won't fix greed. Linda, it won't fix cruelty." A knock came at the door. 2 police officers entered, followed by William's private security chief. Linda's eyes darted between them. What's going on?" William walked to the grand piano in the corner, where he had set up his laptop. He pressed a key. The screen lit up, showing security footage from the previous morning. There she was, Linda, standing over Margaret, screaming. There she was, holding the pot, her face twisted with rage. The sound of Margaret's cry echoed through the living room speakers. Linda gasped, stepping back. "No, please, you can't show that." William turned off the video and looked her dead in the eye. "I didn't have to." The police already saw it. The officers moved closer. "Mrs. Linda Parker," one said calmly, "you're under arrest for elder abuse and aggravated assault." She shook her head violently, reaching for William's arm. "William, no! You can't let them take me. I'm your wife." He stepped back. "You stopped being my wife the moment you hurt the woman who gave me life." The officers took her by the arms. Her sobs echoed through the marble halls as they led her out the front door. Reporters swarmed the driveway, cameras flashing, shouting her name. And as the door closed, silence filled the mansion. Once again, William stood still for a long moment, then finally exhaled. He wasn't relieved. Not yet. Justice didn't heal pain, but it was a start. Later that week, William sat beside his mother's hospital bed. Margaret's hand rested gently in his dot. Her voice was weak, but steady. "I told you to find love again." "Will," she whispered with a faint smile. "Just didn't know love could be this dangerous." He chuckled softly through tired eyes. "You always see the good in people, Mom. I wish I had that gift." Margaret looked at him lovingly. "No, son, you see truth, and truth will always protect you in the end." The camera would fade here, sunlight spilling through the hospital window, the sound of machines softly humming, and William's reflection in the glass. He looked older now, quieter, but wiser. Before leaving, he kissed his mother's forehead and whispered, "You taught me forgiveness, Mom. But today, I also learned something else. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting evil stay." As he walked out of the hospital, the reporters waiting outside shouted questions. He didn't answer. He simply smiled faintly, got into his car, and drove away. That night, the evening news ran one headline across Texas: "Billionaire exposes wife's cruelty, donates fortune to Elder Care Foundation." William Parker had turned his mother's pain into purpose. He named the charity the Margaret Fund, ensuring no elderly person would ever suffer the way his mother did. And Linda? She spent her days behind bars, watching the man she tried to destroy build something greater than her greed could ever imagine. Evil may hide behind beauty, but truth always strips it bare. Do you believe some people are born cruel? Or do they choose it when love no longer serves their purpose?